topic that I'm going to talk about today is predicting canopy cover, a view from above. Scientists are very interested in canopy cover. It can tell us a lot of things about the ecosystem. For example, how trees are distributed with respect to elevation, what kind of animals live in the trees, or how trees are being destroyed in the process of agricultural expansion. All these questions can be helped if we know something about the canopy cover. So far, there are some technologies that do measure the canopy cover. For example, using a camera to look up at the canopy. This process is called hemispherical image. Or one can also use the machine, which is LiDAR, that stands for light detection and ranging, that shoots up laser and then read the return in order to map the canopy cover like this seen in the picture. You can see that these LiDAR dots, they return different return at different heights, and from these heights we are able to build the canopy height model, and with these canopy cover height model we are then able to understand how these canopy covers are distributed in the landscape. But with these technologies, it's mostly in a very small and fine scale, but in order to understand what is happening on the earth, we need to upscale so that we can understand a large area at once. And this requires the help of satellites. There are different kinds of satellites like Sentinel-1, ALOS Pulsar, Landsat, that each measure different kinds of spectrum and wavelength. And the case I'm focusing on today is a paper by Long et al. About a high-resolution canopy height model of the Earth. What Long et al. Do is they collect data from JEDI, which is a LiDAR mission, and then they merge it with another satellite data from Sentinel-2. And then by running a convolutional neural network, CNN here, they're able to produce canopy height model across the globe and also their variance. So how they do it is they train the machine learning model, the convolutional neural network, and then they use the JEDI reading of canopy height as the reference to do a supervised learning. And in their machine learning, they held out 20% of the data for testing and then 80% of the data for training. And that 20% is able to be used to evaluate the accuracy. As you can see in the residual plots, there are different residuals according to different reference height. Some are overestimation, some are underestimation, such as at a higher height. And also they compare how the model, canopy height model, perform at different ecosystems. As you can see, there are different kinds of estimation error as seen in this residual plot based on different ecosystem. In most cases, the median is all above 0, meaning that there is a tendency of overestimation. The authors also compare with existing literature, in this case, Potapov et al. 2021, which also uses JEDI and this time another satellite called Landsat to predict canopy height. And they found out that their model is actually more accurate than Potapov. And in order to compare with that, they actually evaluate with independent airborne LiDAR, which we generally consider as more accurate, more on-the-ground truth of canopy height. And indeed, their model does produce a better result. In terms of evaluating uncertainty, the authors, Long et al., they compare two types of uncertainty, the aleatoric uncertainty and the epistemic uncertainty. In terms of aleatoric uncertainty, which is contains such as the variance within each model, and then also in order to reduce that, they compare images from multiple dates of the same location, and that multiple dates actually give an estimate of how the variance is. In terms of epistemic uncertainty, which is about how well the model performed, they evaluate the convolution neural network model, and then they train 5 of them in order to compare how they differ in terms of the results by having a randomized initial weights. So in an ecological sense, the authors does produce a map that kind of has some error, but then the question we have to ask is how much accuracy and certainty do we need? This really depends on the ecological question that we're asking. For example, a tree of 40 meters high is probably not much different than a tree of 30 meters high in terms of canopy cover. But maybe in terms of carbon storage, a tree of 40 meters high might store more carbon than a tree of 30 meters high. Or another example, to a lion that's roaming on the landscape. A landscape of, let's say, 70% canopy cover may be similar to a, let's say, 50% canopy cover in terms of how it blocks its view of the prey that it's preying on. So it really depends on the ecological question that the ecologists are asking. And then different kind of question can tolerate different kinds of uncertainty. In terms of how it affects policymakers, it really depends on how the ecologists convey and also contain the uncertainty within their analysis so that their result can be ecologically sound and useful. This is the end of my video. Thank you so much.